Hi everyone, this is a report from The Guardian, and it's from 2014, which we remember the great post office sale, you know, one of the last remaining British public owned assets. Okay, now before we go into some of the main point of this article that I want to focus on, I'm just going to share a few of my video titles that I've made very recently, and I do suggest very strongly that people have a look at these videos, listen to them. They're all podcasts really, and they're all stream of consciousness in the sense some of them are not scripted. Two of them I've shared are actually based, well, they're just Facebook notes that I've read out, mostly for the benefit of the partially sighted and blind. So this one here is Judgement Day for Britain, which I've made a video of it, and it's based on this Facebook note, which I'll just scroll through, and you can pause it at any time to read it online if you don't want to actually click on the link. And the information I'm sharing is very important. I do a lot of research. I've spent 25 years trying to share the truth. A lot of the stuff that I was saying 25 years ago and judged mad for and was labelled tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, in fact all of it has actually happened. Okay, and people have contacted me to apologise. Some people have contacted me to apologise, and most disturbingly, the common theme of those apologies include it's actually worse than what you said it could be. Okay, that is the most disturbing thing. So you know what I'm sharing is really the tip of an iceberg. Okay, so and I've had a lot of support for these, and this is another video, Raising the Dead, which explains corporate law, maritime law, which is basically satanic law of might equals right to do as thy will, and it's explaining that we're all dead and now it's time to raise the dead, okay, into living consciousness that is connected to solid truth, because therein lies our reality. And if worldly reality is not connected to any solid truth, it is a fantasy. So we're living in like a Hollywood stage set that we live for real. Okay, we're like the characters in computer games. This is another very serious issue about acid and how it's freely available in our society, that the public themselves have had to set up a petition to ask the government to ban this stuff for sale without a licence. But meanwhile, you know, last year alone, 454 people, and a majority of the Muslims have been attacked by acid in racially motivated attacks. This one, again, a very, very serious issue about methane, okay, which I've made this video, Methane and Mass Extinction, what the Corbett report missed, because there is a problem of shill alternative news providers who stick with the general narrative and poo-poo it without actually looking at what that general narrative is itself covering up. Now, as I've said in this video, I'm not saying James Corbett is a shill. Like a lot of us, we are misled, but it's very important to look beneath the veneers, okay? And this is another video, Corporate Communism, which is a very, valid point, serious issue, which explains that is basically what we're facing, corporate communism, which will be every bit as draconian, if not more so, than Stalinist Soviet communism. And this report from Global Research ties in with it all, about how, you know, all the wars in the Middle East are at the behest of the central banking system, the financial world, who we know did 9/11. As far as the evidence concludes, we cannot deny the fact that we've got financial fingerprints all over it. A lot of those financial interests are actual Zionists or are affiliated with the Zionist movement. At the end of the day, we're dealing with a unified global elite, with each faction with its own varied interests, who all seek to profit from the Zionist financial instigated wars and acts of terror. Now, in the Grenfell report, which is shared here, again, there's a lot of links in here. Have a look through it like this one. Lots and lots of links for you to start your own research. I've identified the crime of economic terrorism, and we now need to have this crime recognised as a genuine crime. You know, it's a new crime title, if you like, which is economic terrorism. And ultimately, that is what we are suffering and experiencing in our world today, whether it's through corporate military efforts or whether it's through corporate finance. People are suffering fear, terror, injury and death. That's the fact of it. And Grenfell, as I explain here, in no uncertain terms, is a reflection of the crime. You know, it is. Grenfell is the result of economic terrorism. So one of the main points that I've been making, and especially in the Grenfell report and the Judgement Day for Britain, is that our government, the British government, is funding global corporations. Over probably around £150 billion a year is given directly from the British government to a host of global corporations who themselves have already profited from the sale, basically, of our public service and national assets. Excuse me. Sorry about the interruption there. So anyway, the Royal Mail is one of, you know, one of the last remaining assets that have been sold to corporate investors, corporate providers. I mean, I find it outrageous. I was absolutely outraged. I've been outraged from Thatcher. From the minute Thatcher started selling off our national assets, claiming that they were draining the economy. I mean, anybody, I was only 17 at the time, for goodness sake. Anybody with half a brain cell, I mean, I didn't even have an O-level to my name. Okay, because I had to go back to college as a mature student to get my O-levels and A-levels, okay. But I tell you, at the age of 17, I understood that if a corporation wants to buy our national assets that apparently are draining our nation, then obviously that is a lie, isn't it? Because why would they want to buy something that's just a drain? How is it possible to make money out of public services without impinging on them services, charging the public more, and employing less staff and making them work for longer hours with less employer benefits. It stands to reason. So, you know, right from Thatcher, I knew what was going on. Now, one of the points that I've made in both my recent Facebook notes, this one, you know, about corporations, and also the Grenfell video, is that the most disgusting thing that happens is that while assets are in public hands, they're virtually worthless. You know, they're worth very little. Okay, and they're sold to these private corporations at, you know, knockdown prices. And as soon as they're in corporate hands, oh, suddenly they're worth 5 times more. And this is a prime example of it. You know, I mean, I could show you hundreds of examples, but I'm just showing you one, and really that's all you need to know, because you can check it out from there, and you can see that that has happened all the way down the line. Okay, and this is the point. Royal Mail has been criticised in the past for not collecting the full value of its property assets. A 2.3 acre post office site on Rathbone Place, just off Oxford Street, central London, which sold for 120 million to Great Portland Estates in 2011, has been valued at 550 million upon completion. So as soon as they've signed the deal, suddenly it's shot up from 120 million to 550 million. So what does that equate to? That equates to £430 million robbed from the British public. And who's going to be paying? Who's going to be paying for the £120 million? Well, whoever's bought the Royal Mail are going to got that back in the blink of an eye from overcharging the public and cutting back on all the staff. Now, I'm speaking as somebody who lives on the ground, who comes from the very bottom of society, and I'm helping people around me, the disabled, the sick. Okay, I've witnessed those people, their income drop. My own sister, who was living in her own flat with support of carers, okay, ATOS sent her letter, you know, assessment letter, to the wrong address, so she never got the letter. Okay, we know the address they sent it to. They definitely did not send it to her address where she'd been living for 3 years. They sent it to another address. Because she didn't go, they stopped all the money. Next minute, she had to be sectioned, because all we knew about it was that suddenly she'd stopped talking and wasn't seeing anybody. She had no money in her account. She was 6.5 stone, or 6 stone in weight, when I took her in to the psychiatric department, because she wasn't speaking. Now, she's got mental health problems because of a very serious car accident that she was involved in. She was not responsible for the accident, and she got minimum compensation, because she only got compensation for the physical injuries, because the mental health injuries weren't apparent until long after, well, until a year after she'd received compensation for the physical injuries. And being mentally ill, she disappeared. We had a job tracking down that, and, you know, she didn't want to go through any more compensation claims, because people with mental health problems, you know, they don't think straight. So she has already been robbed. She's already one of society's victims, and she was living comfortably. She wasn't living the life of Riley, but she was living comfortably. She had her own flat. She was able, on her better periods, able to spend time with her grandchildren there. Well, she's been sofa surfing for the last 2-3 years. She's been sofa surfing. In fact, longer than that. 4 years. Really. Sofa surfing. Staying at friends' houses, families' houses. She's got a care of address. She went to the council to try and get a house or flat with the help of her doctor. The council's telling her that apparently from 17 years ago she owes £2,000 rent to them. And you know, we've queried this. I've queried this with them because it's like, well, how could she? The last time she was in a council house, she was taken. She had to leave that house because she was sectioned. The council were informed she were on housing benefit at the time, and so how could they have not had any rent? And how can it be her responsibility when she's due housing benefit? So in that case, go and ask housing benefit for it. But these are the kind of things they do. Now, we know for a fact that she does not owe £2,000 in rent. But now they're saying they can't rehome her because she owes this money from 17 years ago. So why is it for 17 years they've known where she lived after that, after she, you know, because she's been claiming housing benefit all along. So they know. But they don't say a word to her until the minute she applies for housing benefit. This systematic robbery that's going on, it goes all across the board. I've had to help a friend recently. Okay. You know, hundreds of pounds the council were illegally trying to charge this person for. And it was only because of, you know, a couple of queries. Oh, well, I'm sorry, you know, blah, blah, blah. Next minute, oh, yeah, sorry, we made a mistake. But if I hadn't been around to help that disabled person, to ask questions, that person was really, really stressed and worried about how they were going to pay this £400, £500 bill that they'd been told they've got to pay from an already slashed income. Because they've slashed employment support allowance by £30 a week. So from £105, people are now getting £75. And then suddenly told, oh, and out of that they've got to pay toward the council tax, £10. £10 a week. Water rates, gas, electric. How do you live? And as I say, having a bill when you're only on £70 a week of £500, that is economic terrorism. And that person was suffering heart palpitations and severely depressed. And it was only because I asked to have a look into it, to have a look at this letter, because they were saying, I don't know how I'm going to afford to pay it. This is the kind of economic terrorism. Okay? And meanwhile, these bastards are getting away with murder. So, you know, imagine you're an executive at Royal Mail. And you've got a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. And they've offered you, let's say, £500,000 backhander if you get this deal with them for £120 million. Lovely jubbly for him. But not lovely jubbly for the British public, the workforce, who then, what, forever have lost our Royal Mail service. That's ours. that we run, that we provided, that could have been earning profits for Britain. Because let's face it, if it can earn profits for a global corporation, why can't it earn profits for Britain and pay for Britain's NHS? If they can charge people 40p to post a letter and reap all them profits to go into the Cayman Islands, why couldn't we have done it with our Royal Mail and pumped that money into our NHS and vastly improved it, instead of driving it down and then telling people, well, you know, it's hardly worth keeping on. And Britain is a bastard nation, okay, run by bastards. And unless the people are prepared to fucking well rise up and start asking questions and demand their children's rights and our human rights, then we are a bastard people. Okay? Now, at the moment, the rhetoric that's, you know, out there in this, on the internet and social media, a lot of it is heavily focused on anti-Muslims and anti-immigrants. The Muslim threat. The people most at risk from the Muslim threat are actually moderate Muslims that do not support the Daesh / ISIS, Israeli Secret Intelligence Service, as Ken O'Keefe correctly explains. So, as I say, it is time for us to stop this grand theft. We need to stop it. We need to take back the City of London. The City of London has no right whatsoever to be an independent state within our country. It is the enemy within. And they are criminals and they need arresting. Central London is a cesspit of pedo-sadist-fascists, okay? And they do commit crimes of economic terrorism. And between them, they have systematically robbed the British people, the British public, of our national assets. The British independent businesses that have been caused to go bankrupt by the efforts, conspiratorial efforts of economic terrorists, of which David Cameron is one. Check Gordon Bowden, ex-RAF engineer. He has the goods on it. You know, and then on top of it all, like I say, behind it all, we've got Fukushima, still ongoing, 3 nuclear melt-throughs that apparently, oh, we can just ignore that. And then we've got this methane threat, which, again, finance doesn't want. The meat industry is a big, 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 big industry. You're talking absolutely hundreds, billions, trillions, if not, from the meat industry. Because you're not just talking about meat and dairy. You're talking about leather. You're talking about the stuff they make from the bones, pet food, just everything, the whole thing. The whole thing. It is a massive, massive industry. And they don't want it to stop. But the absolute fact of it is that methane is a massive threat. Okay, it is a major threat. And as I've explained in this video, what the methane and mass extinction, what the Corbett report missed, I'm explaining in no uncertain terms. Now, with scientific evidence from scientists, which Corbett rightly says, yes, what they're saying has no scientific support about CO2. But they are right that, yes, we've got about 3 years, if that. That doesn't mean that in 3 years the climate's suddenly going to change and really bad things are going to happen. What it means is that after 3 years we'll have passed the point of no return. That nothing we can do can then stop the inevitable methane. Gigatons, you're talking gigatons of methane being released into the atmosphere. Mass extinction. Okay? It might happen in 5 years after the 3-year tip-off, or 10 years, or 20 years, or 100 years. At most, we'll have 100 years before this huge methane is released from Siberia, the Siberian Arctic shelf. And I've shared the evidence. People can believe it if they want. If they want to check the facts and evidence to support the belief. Or if they want, they can choose not to believe it. Not check the facts and evidence. Just believe what people like Corbett say, what people like her say, just believe that no, it's all related to CO2. No, if it was that serious, somebody would have done something about it. But no, they won't. Remember, we are being governed by economic terrorists, pedo-sadist-fascists. They don't care. All they care about, all they believe in, is the numbers on their bank accounts. And that's it. You know, and I made a video about this as well, even, you know, advising alert to the World Bank, and even trying to offer some guidance to the World Bank about how we're going to have to deal with this, how they are now going to have to utilise all the massive amounts of wealth that they've accumulated on the strength of their theft and fraud and economic terrorism. Because we are going to have to save our planet. Okay? And if it comes right, you know, we will have to stop consuming meat and dairy at the rate we're doing. In fact, it might come to the point, really, and it does need to come to the point, if we're really serious about saving our planet, that the only animals that are raised are for pet food. Are we going to feed our pets, or are we going to eat? Which way is it going to be? Dogs, they can be brought up on a vegan diet and be very healthy with it too. Cats, no. Cats need meat, don't they? So, what we're going to do? Are we going to feed the cat meat and also eat vegetation-based products, which actually are better for our health? Or are we just going to ignore it and let this threat just arrive? Are we just going to ignore this grand theft? You know, what this headline should have read is British public robbed of £430 million by corporate criminals. Because that's a theft from the British public. That is what it amounts to. They're on completion. Imagine you go to a shop and you buy a car for, say, £5,000. And the minute that you've handed that money over, suddenly that car is worth £25,000. How does that work? Who on this earth operates like that? Oh, the British government. The British government that's denied people like my sister her rights to dignity and a home. That then people like me, who's already caring for a severely disabled person anyway, okay, I then have to help those people. Oh no, I don't have to do it, do I? I could just say to them, go away. I could be Theresa May, couldn't I? No, but I'm not Theresa May. I have a heart, I have a care, I have a conscience, I have compassion. And so, you know, I please ask you to show an interest, get informed, get educated, because if you love your children, you will take action, you will get informed. Because your children will be wanting to know what the bloody hell you were doing while all this shit was going on. and they're dumped with an unrepayable debt. And, you know, the choice for 40% of the population will be entering a factory prison. You know, these are just a few of the notes that I've written. All of it advice, all of it sharing information, all of it explaining what's going on, giving advice, sharing news. Why? Why do I write them? Do I get paid for it? No. Hardly anybody reads them. But they're there. I've done what I can. I can't do any more. I'm not an MP. I haven't got a lot of money. What can I do? Except keep sharing the information. Some of my articles are published in Mindscape magazine, which I've donated free of charge. And again, you know, Mindscape magazine is a really good online magazine. You subscribe to it online. I think it costs a couple of pounds per issue. Packed with very interesting articles, and you know, they have shared a lot of my articles. I have been freely donated to them. But, you know, like I say, it is time that people started sorting the wheat from the chaff. Who is telling you facts and information with integrity, as just a human being from human being, you know, without any pretense, without any facade? And, you know, that's one of the reasons why I don't show my face, because why should my face why should how I look make any difference to what I'm saying? Why should who I am, you know, what my position is in society, and my economic status, and my gender, and how I look, why should that make any difference whatsoever to what the truth that I'm sharing? And you know, that's why I don't show my face, because it is a distraction, okay? And I'm not doing this to you know, self-promote, as it were. Yes, what I understand, as I say, I've had some very unique experiences in life. As I've explained here, this article is written via the benefit of my personal life experience, education and research as a female British subject, a CSA survivor and witness of universal golden light being who transmitted the message of universal law through an energy of bliss. Fact, that was my experience. Okay? And regardless of whether or not one believes in my personal experience, the fact and lawful evidence are undeniable. So, I've explained where I'm coming from, what is guiding me, what's at the core of my conscience and consciousness, what my being is founded on, and that is what gives me strength and courage to be able to speak out on my own. I haven't got an army of support around me. In fact, quite the opposite, as far as physical friends go. But, you know, Grenfell, the issue of economic terrorism, the issue of our human rights, the issue of methane, okay? It is a very, very serious thing. And this is really the main issue now. That needs to wake everybody up. And for people to understand, because I tell you now, what I'm sharing here from top scientists really does expose the extent of the cover-up. And we do witness exactly what, as Jesus said, they will strain at a gnat while swallowing the camel. And so while they're straining at the gnat and the public are saying, oh, it's just a gnat, nothing to see here, move on. That is exactly what the whole discourse is designed to do, because they do not want people to realise. Sorry. They don't want people to realise the truth. They don't want to alarm people. Oh, because then suddenly, everybody might suddenly stop eating meat. And what's that going to do? How are they going to make all of their money? Oh, how many businesses are going to close down? And that's why I've made my video to the World Bank, alert to the World Bank, explaining to them, you're going to have to dig your hands into your illicit mountains of money. And you're going to have to start investing in the people who were dependent on the meat industry, on the livestock industry, on the products from that. You are going to have to invest in those people now, and in order for them to start working for a more ecologically friendly forms of businesses. Because you see, I'm not Theresa May. I'm not David Cameron or Ian Duncan Smith, who will just say, oh, sorry, we've got no money now, so you lot, piss off. Die. 10,000 people dead within 6 weeks of being told that they're no longer entitled to disability, having their benefits stopped. You see, I'm not that cruel-hearted. I know that these people who are dependent on that industry need a living, and that's why they do need to be compensated. They do need to be redirected and be given the finance to do that, because we can't just leave them high and dry, can we? And in fact, they won't be high, will they? Because this idea that you can just say, oh yeah, right, we're changing track now, and just abandon people, like, you know, the corporate factories do. They set themselves up and, oh, suddenly we close down, yeah, sorry everybody, bye. No. That isn't the way life should work, and it is an unlawful way, because we have to take everything into account. You know, we're here to be like God, the universal intelligence that did create us. Okay, we're here to be like that intelligence, and that intelligence does mean taking everything into account. And that's what my work does, and that's what we need to start doing. Expand our minds, okay? We've been living with tunnel vision, tunnel thinking, blinkered psychology. It's time to step out. Take off those blinkers. Step out of the box. Because a lot of us, like I say, we're dead and buried before our physical body actually dies. So, what more can I say? I can't say any more than I've said, except to ask people to please look, read, learn, get active. You know, we need to be the change. If we want change, we have to be that change. Okay? And, you know, I've been vegan for 25 years. It's not done anything bad for me. You know, it's difficult in this world that's mostly panders to meat eaters and dairy product eaters, who a lot of them call themselves vegetarians, you know. But we do need to change, and that is why I've made this extra video today, is to help people to become aware of the reality that you're not going to read in the mainstream, and even the UN is ignoring it, because they're still focusing on CO2, and that's why Corbett very easily just rips them all apart, because CO2 is not the problem. It is a problem if it's in massive amounts. Of course, CO2 will cause massive global warming, but at its present rate, it's the gnat, it's the methane that is the real deadly threat. And as I say, when she says 3 years, that means after 3 years we will be past the point of no return. And if anything bad happens, these will all say, oh, but we were telling you. We were telling you about climate change. Well, you should have gone and looked at the information, shouldn't you? And yes, you should, because you know that you're living in a world that's controlled. We know that we're living in a world that our media is fully controlled. Okay? We know that. And, you know, well, what is the solution, people might say? Well, there you go. You know, the solution, there you go. Educate yourself. Hemp is the solution. And every animal farmer could be reaping the same profits, in fact more, from hemp farming that is sustainable and ecologically friendly and actually improves the soil. We could all be living much happier lives and actually working to enhance life and create a better life on our planet. Work then becomes a joy. When you know that you're going to reap the full rewards of your work, it's a joy to work. Why do you think that all these big businessmen will say, oh, we work really hard. I'm at my office every day, late into the night. Yeah, of course they are, because they are benefiting personally from it. When you're working, you know, 40-hour weeks for a pittance, that you can barely pay your bills and actually are in debt, well, it is all a bit of a drudge, isn't it? So everything, the quality, once you start denying people proper wages and they're living under stress and strain, economic terrorism, then they're not going to be putting out in their job, really, as much as what they would be doing if they were reaping, if they were comfortable. You know, an NHS that's understaffed and underfunded, you're not going to, it is not going to be able to provide the quality of care for an NHS that is employing staff on good wages, good hours. It's so serious. And as I say, if Britain can't wake up, well, there really is no hope for us. And, you know, we're still living in this post-9/11 world where we've got our own government is still clinging on to the official conspiracy theory. And, you know, to me, that is my measure of a politician now. Okay, if that politician is not discussing 9/11 and questioning the official conspiracy theory, then you can't really trust that politician, because they are one of the compromised. Because nobody with half a brain cell could accept that absolutely ridiculous story. Okay, you know, this is Gordon Bowden, Follow the Money. This, Red Ice Radio, Richard Grove. You know, I would say to anybody, listen to this. I'll leave you the link to it. He worked in the World Trade Centres with finance. He tells you in no uncertain terms what's been going on. All of these people, all these videos about 9/11, she's another one, Rebecca Roth, you know, again, worked in aviation. These people know what they're talking about. So, what can I say, except it is time to wake up, to get real, to get active, and like I say, be the change that this planet needs and that our children need, because our children have got a right to a debt-free future. They have got a right to grow up in a world that is not just waiting to impose a huge criminal unrepayable debt on them. And anybody who cannot accept that, then that person really, they're not fully conscious. They're a danger to humanity because they believe that yes, we can do that. There is no law. Well, people like my granddad sacrificed their lives for this country because they believe in rights, justice, respect, integrity. And that's what they established in Britain. And it's been hacked away and we've been robbed. Britain has been robbed. And it's time that we stood up and reclaimed our stolen property. And also our rights.